I want to introduce our first speaker. So this is a longtime friend. We've shared many panels together. Ted Brownstein. He holds a master's degree in the Torah, the Hebrew Bible. He's a founder of the Lake Worth Interfaith Network. He's an ambassador for the Parliament of the World's Religions and teaches classes in Hebrew and Hebrew Bible, I guess, the Torah Interfaith Dialogue online for the Wilmette Institute. He's also the compiler of the Interfaith Prayer Book and the author of the soon-to-be-released Kinship of the Bible and Quran.
Okay.
Well, that's
Thank
an
you
ad
for
spot.
that kind
I want him to be
introduction, Rabbi
spotlighted all
Marc,
together.
and it's wonderful how good and how pleasant it is to be together with brothers and sisters tonight. And it's great to talk about brothers and sisters in a larger sense, of meaning all of us here together, regardless of our cultural, religious, national, or political backgrounds. Wonderful topic that we're discussing, how to stay compassionate in these polarizing times. And I'd like to focus on individual words in the subject for tonight. First of all, compassion. Really focusing in on that and thinking about what is compassion. Well, it actually, the English word comes from a Latin root. It means to suffer along with. So it means to when other people are experiencing pain that we experience the pain together. We're not cold and indifferent to what's going on in the lives or the experience of others, but we have fellow feeling with them, really a kinship with them. And it's really interesting, the Hebrew word that's translated to be compassionate is what's called a denominative verb. That is, the verbal form comes from a physical object or a noun. And that is rechem or rachem in Hebrew. And it actually refers to a body part. Maybe some of you know what body part it's talking about, but it actually is the woman's womb. It's a very visceral then experience of compassion to feel it deep in one's body, in one's soul, as if it's in the womb, as the compassion that a mother would naturally have for her children. Very strong human bond. And you might be also familiar with the Yiddish word Rahmanis, which of course is derived from the Hebrew, that has that same sense of being compassionate. And it's wonderful to reflect in this interfaith space on the ties between our different faith traditions. Of course, the Arabic of the Quran is very much related to the Hebrew of the Bible in Judaism. And the very first line of the Quran is Bismillah, in the name of God, Al-Rahman, Al-Rahim. Well, Rahman and Rahim are also a form of Rechem, has the same sense of most merciful, most compassionate, but goes back to the same word in Arabic, meaning the womb. So again, this deep experiential sense of pain and fellow feeling for other people. Not an intellectual thing, not a superficial emotional thing, but real deep compassion, real deep feeling for the other. And then I'd like to focus on the word polarizing. And I was thinking about this. Polarizing isn't a Torah word, is it? Where are we going to find polarizing in our sacred texts? But our texts do say a lot about separating light and darkness. And what polarizing does is drives things apart. And maybe we lose some of the detail as we go to black and white thinking. We can lose out on some of this. I'm going to hold up this picture. I don't know if you can see it. See the picture on the one side is a color picture of this young woman. Then when we go to the black and white in grayscale, we lose some of the detail. This is what happens as things begin to get polarized. And then we lose more detail when we go to the straight black and white. And this is our experience, whether we're in the religious realm and we have different institutions that don't think kindly of each other in different faiths, or even within the same faith, that they're polarized and they say negative things about each other and they cast one another in a bad light. And what you get when that happens is something like that. You have people slinging mud at each other, people spinning arguments against one another, and it really distorts reality. It's the contrary of compassion, this process of polarizing. So when we want to avoid that in times that we're immersed in an environment that may seem to be driving us apart from each other, polarizing us, helping us not see each other clearly, that we can be aware of those forces around us and do what we can to counteract them. And so then we come to probably the most important word in the theme for tonight. That's the first word of how. That's how do we go about cultivating compassion, recognizing the forces of polarization and countermanding them or counteracting them. What specific things can we do to stay compassionate, especially in polarizing times? Well, again, in an interfaith space, I'd like to reflect on the theme of Zoroastrianism, which of course was the Persian ancestral religion that our forefathers as Jews faced when they were in exile in Babylon. They had a lot of interaction with Zoroastrians at that time, or Farsis. And one of their main premises is good thoughts, good words, good deeds. So from good thoughts, which is an internal hidden experience from others, come verbal expressions, and then active expressions that reflect on what those fundamental good thoughts are. So how, again, do we cultivate good thoughts? Again, from an interfaith perspective, there's a Buddhist practice that I really love, and maybe some of you have experienced, called meditation. And it involves, of course, sitting quietly in a typical Buddhist posture. But first, one directs loving kindness toward oneself, thinks good thoughts about oneself, and then goes into a sequence of expansion where they begin to think about somebody that they already know and love first, and then widening out further to somebody they barely know, like maybe a checkout person in a grocery store or something that you might exchange pleasantries with but don't really know, extending compassion and loving thoughts to them. And then going further to someone we may have difficulty with on a superficial level, and then on a deeper and deeper level to those we really might have an antagonism with, and trying to think good thoughts about them, to see what positive things we can say and envision about them, and cultivate good thoughts in that way. Then when we think about actions, I'd like to share with you a quote from the Baha'i writings that reflect on positive actions, good actions that, again, can derive and build compassion. One of the main teachings and famous expressions of Baha'u'llah, who's the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, is that you are all fruits of one tree, leaves of one branch. And when we elucidate that expression, a tree is a dynamic organism. It just doesn't sit there, but it's a living thing that interacts with its environment. The roots pull water and nutrients out of the soil. The leaves take carbon dioxide out of the air. They combine through a flow of fluids in the tree and produce fruit and foliage and growth for the tree. So when we think about our own efforts to cultivate compassion, the Baha'i writings say this: for this reason, reflecting on the tree, all human beings powerfully must sustain one another. Let them purify their sight and behold all humankind as leaves and blossoms and fruits of one tree of being. Let them at all times concern themselves with doing kindly things to their fellows, offering to someone love, consideration, helpful thoughts, and actual help. Let them see no one as their enemy, or wishing them ill, or thinking of all humankind as their friend. Regard the alien as an intimate, the stranger as a companion. Stay free of prejudice, drawing no lines. So the action of actually visiting somebody, saying something kind to them, being aware of what pains and sufferings they're going through, and developing fellow feeling with them in an active way, again, are all ways of doing the how, of cultivating compassion in our lives in these polarizing times. So I hope I haven't talked too fast, trying to get a lot of information in there, but really appreciate being together with you all this evening and having a chance to share in this wonderful gathering. Thank you to Rabbi Marc and Tao and to all the participants in this evening's program. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Ted. Thank you so much. So, I want to thank again Ted Brownstein, and I saw Chris in the background there. I know you're right there in the bottom right-hand corner. So thank you for being here as well.